Hey there. This is part two of this week's comic book reviews for the week of May 6, 2015. In the first part of this video, we went over the Convergence books, and in this part, we will be going over the non-DC's Convergence books that I picked up this week. Starting with issue 1 of Swords of Sorrow, the giant Dynamite crossover event with all the women of Dynamite all crossing over and fighting something. We'll get to that later in this short review of the book. First, I really like the cover to this one. I just like how kind of old and pulpy it looks with the art style and the random skull just in the middle of the page for some reason. It's just, well, let's plop a skull here because it's very flavorful. It's very pulpy. So really enjoy the cover. And this book is basically introduced, like just barely introducing us to a lot of the characters who will be the main players in this story. Kind of going through all of them and catching us up to where they are and a little bit of who they are. And I don't know any like most of these people, so it's pretty cool. So first person we're introduced to is Jane the Jungle Girl, or Jana. It's Jana, right? It is Jana, yeah. I was thinking of Tarzan and Jane. Jana the Jungle Girl. We then get Red Sonja in the book as she's dying somewhere in the desert. Vampirella is in this book. This person, I don't know who she is exactly. Deja Thoris, again, not sure. Some seems to be some sort of alien princess sort of dealio. And she finds a statue of Red Sonja just on her planet. We have Kato and Jennifer Blood from the Green Hornet series. And then after this, we're actually introduced, I guess, to the main driving force of this story, which is, did they have names yet? I don't think. But it's this person, this sort of blue-skinned queen person who is recruiting all the females of the Dynamite universe in order to lead an army against this guy, this prince he's called, who is waging revenge against all women. So sounds a lot like 99.99999, I'll say 100% of Gamergators or stuff like that. Kind of just internet misogynist, I hate all women sort of dealio. We then catch up with all the characters we were introduced to as the Blue Queen's assistant. This guy over here delivers each of these characters their very own Sword of Sorrow. And what I like is as he's going through, he takes he has an appropriate costume for every universe that he's visiting. So here he's in the black suit with a fancy car. When he visits Red Sonja, he's in body armor. When he visits Jana the Jungle Girl, he's in a loincloth, as he gives her. And it's basically, so the first half of this book introduces us to all these female characters, and then the latter half is giving them their sword. We are introduced to a few more characters over here. So we have Irene Adler from the Sherlock Holmes books, Lady Zorro. I don't know who this person is. Lady Greystoke, but I'm not sure where she's from. And you can see every time he's in an appropriate costume for the whole deal. So I don't know who this looks like. I want to say some sort of Masters of the Universe He-Man sort of dealio, but I'm not sure where this is from either. And then we find out that the universes are kind of blending into each other as Vampirella has to fight off a T-Rex from Jana. Red Sonja has to fight one of the aliens from one of the alien worlds, and then we get a little ending matter with the prince gathering his own female-only all-woman army to fight against the first all-woman army that is being recruited in this book. So yeah, not a lot going on expositionally. We're not sure other than, okay, this blue woman has a beef with this prince guy who seems to be thoroughly unlikable. This is basically, here's the character roster. Here are all the characters. Here's where they're coming from, at least kind of, this is the world they inhabit a little bit. And here's how they get the sword. They're not coming together. Their worlds are kind of blending together a little bit by the end of this book, but this is basically roll call, but it's a really exciting roll call. It's a really well done roll call with, I really do like the touch of the assistant getting a different costume for every world he's in, and yeah, fun little roll call book. I'm expecting good things for a book where nothing happens. This is still a very fun read. Just seeing everyone being kind of summoned. It's like, oh man, that character's in there, and this character's in there, and I don't know this character, but she seems really cool. So yeah, really, really kind of exciting stuff. Moving on to, let me see, to Spider-Gwen, issue number 4. And yeah, I have a bit of a weird thing about this book. So we start off with Gwen saving the kids who have been graffitiing her face everywhere on the town. Rescues them from, well, kind of, they're about to tag this new building, and she scares them so they fall off, and then she rescues them from going splatty splat on the ground. We're teased a little bit to, I guess, an ongoing story about gentrification, which seems to be a kind of hot button issue in comic books now. A lot of comic book characters on TV. So we have Daredevil on Netflix. Pretty sure we've seen gentrification pop up on a different comic book. Just feels like it has. And now it's popping up here as kind of the reason why these kids have been going everywhere tagging Spider-Gwen's portrait on all these new buildings going up. But the main, that's kind of the short bit of this, and then the main meat of this book is Gwen visiting the Parkers, and it's just awesome. I mean, she visits the Parkers, and she still hasn't forgiven herself for killing Peter, or letting Peter die. She feels responsible for Peter's death, and she hasn't forgiven herself for that yet. But Ben and May are just such nice people. They're so welcoming, and they obviously love Gwen. Like they have a custom mug for Gwen. It's a Winnie the Pooh mug, but it's Gwenny, and like Ben he's a nice, incredibly likable guy. And then Gwen has a heart-to-heart with May, and it turns out that Aunt May has been collecting all the newspaper clippings of Spider-Woman, and even though, like, she's connecting Spider-Woman to the death of Peter, she's forgiven Spider-Woman and thinks that Spider-Woman is obviously trying to do good in the world. So, yeah, it's just like, the Parkers are so likable, and this story, reading about them, it's just a really likable thing, and seeing these characters help out Gwen and give her the emotional support that she needs to kind of be this superhero. And we end with Gwen getting back together with the band, the Mary Janes, that she's in. So reconnecting with her friends a little. So yeah, again, I really like this book, and I like where this book can go. Just in terms of having this alternate take on the Spider-Man story, where like the biggest difference is that Peter lost his support system. He had Aunt May, but Aunt May didn't like Spider-Man. He didn't have many friends, and his friends that he did have turned out to be like the Green Goblin, or the Hobgoblin rather, Harry Osborn, of course. Uncle Ben died. So this is a Gwen Stacy that has more of an emotional support system. She has the Parkers, she has her father, she has her friends, and it's like the comparison I want to make is kind of like Buffy, which is kind of the obvious one, where before Buffy, all the Slayers worked alone, and now Buffy works in this group, and that's why she's more successful. And I want to say the same thing about like Spider-Gwen, that it's an interesting twist on the premise. It's not Spider-Man if Spider-Man were Gwen Stacy. It's more Spider-Man if Spider-Man had a support team who didn't know he was Spider-Man, but besides the point. What I don't like about this book is that the universe itself doesn't feel fully realized yet. We're 4 issues in, and I don't feel like there's anything distinct about this universe other than the fact that Gwen Stacy is Spider-Man. Like, as for where they're going in this book, it's also hard to say in terms of overall character arc and plot and all that. I don't see a bigger story for this. Yeah, it's just hard to say. Like, it feels like they're building this entire universe for Spider-Gwen, kind of issue by issue, with kind of on the seat of their pants, really. And each issue is holding up, but before how long? How long is it before there just aren't enough stakes? This isn't a living, breathing world that we can get invested in past. Is Spider-Gwen happy or not? So yeah, that's where I am with this one. Moving on to the Amazing Spider-Man issue 18, which seems to be the final issue of Amazing Spider-Man before Secret Wars. Not counting the point ones. I think the point one stories are going to come a little bit after this one, but this is the main full-digit, the last main full-digit Amazing Spider-Man story before Secret Wars. And basically tidily ends up with this short arc we had with the Ghost infiltrating Parker Industries, and killing everybody off. Except we discover very early on in this issue that because the Ghost is completely intangible, you can actually pierce Sanjay's heart. Like, her heart's intact. He was just kind of disrupting it using electrical things. I'm not quite sure. I'm not a scientist. But basically, everyone that the Ghost has killed is still alive and just kind of knocked out. Heart arrhythmia sort of dealio, I guess. So Spider-Man tries to fight the Ghost and gets some support from Clayton and Anna Maria, who use all the Spider-Man gear in Parker Industries to whip up a few tools of themselves in order to turn the fight in Spider-Man's favor after he gets a building collapsed on top of him. So yeah, it's a nice, tidy sort of story going on. Just a nice, tidy ending. You don't want to do too much in this book to set up following stories because of Secret Wars. So yeah, fight scene, Spider-Man rescues everyone, Anna Maria comes to Spider-Man's rescue. And at the very end of this book, we get kind of the denouement of this run of Spider-Man, where Parker Industries just collapses. So again, we got Spider-Man Sunset, which usually happens at a kind of finale moment. The book then continues to lead into more of the point one stories, I guess, where with Black Cat kind of deciding that she wants to go full villain. She kidnaps the Parkers and sets all of her possessions on fire, including the Parkers who she kidnapped, in order to wipe the slate, give her a new start, wipe the slate clean, so to speak. She doesn't like her stuff getting stolen from her, ironically, considering she's a thief. So she basically decides, if I can lose it, it's not worth having, but also no one else can have it either. So I'm just going to burn all my shit and start anew. Spider-Man rescues the Parkers, of course. Black Cat gets away to be evil some more. So yeah, as I said, for a finale of this kind of run on Spider-Man, pretty good. Wraps everything up really nicely, very tidily. Not a lot of interesting things happening, but provides a foundation for post-Secret Wars Spider-Man, I guess, wherever that may take us. Next up, we have Tales of the Tales of the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, which is Squirrel Girl issue number 5. And this book continues to be one of the best, probably the best book that Marvel is putting out right now. So this is a one-shot story. Framing device is that a whole bunch of superheroes are fighting dinosaurs on the Statue of Liberty, including Squirrel Girl. Meanwhile, what's her name? Meanwhile, Nancy is trapped in the Statue of Liberty with a whole bunch of people, and they start exchanging Squirrel Girl stories. So, yeah, Tales of the Squirrel Girl is just a whole bunch of people telling Squirrel Girl stories. And what makes this interesting is that Nancy is the only one who's actually heard of Squirrel Girl before. So all these people take turns just making up Squirrel Girl stories that have nothing to do with the actual Squirrel Girl. And they're all, of course, kind of parodies of different comic book stories. So we have this older woman telling the first made-up Squirrel Girl story, which is like a 50s era Super Dickory thing. Very reminiscent of those like old Lois Lane comic book covers where Captain America is dating instead of partnering, not dating, but instead of being partners with Squirrel Girl, Captain America's new partner is Bass Lass, who convinces him that, and I love this issue, this panel, who convinces him that totalitarianism is the right way to go. And so Squirrel Girl has to convince Captain America that democracy is good again. And it's just kind of like a great send-up of all those classic, Superman's gone evil in the 50s books, or, why is Superman so fat? Sort of Super Dickory stories. It's really funny, just done really well. And that's only the first one. We then get a story where next person's story is Squirrel Girl, except it's Clone Wars. So Squirrel Girl going through the Clone Wars before the people talk and remind the guy telling the story that was actually Spider-Man, and the guy thought that Spider-Man had a big bushy tail, which is why I confused the two. Next story is Squirrel Girl if she were Cable, essentially. So Squirrel Girl from the future being just kind of unbeatable because she's from the future. We get Squirrel Girl as a Sunday Funnies, just a Sunday comic book strip, and then as the Dark Knight Returns Squirrel Girl. So we get all these different Squirrel Girl parodies, all of them very on point, very well written, even for how short they are. Like in 2 panels you get, okay, this is Squirrel Girl as the Dark Knight Returns, and it's just hilarious how quickly they can lampoon something like that. Yeah, it's just a really fun, funny, happy book. Can't recommend it enough. Just really great. I wish I didn't spoil all of the setups they did. It would have been nice, I guess, for you to discover everything they've carried on their own. But it's also great. Just all great stuff. Just Squirrel Girl is the best. I love it, and you should love it too. And finally, we get to the last issue of this week that I picked up, Secret Wars #1. And the first thing I really want to say about this is just the presentation is so nice. And nice thick stock glossy paper for the front cover. Back cover's matte, still very nice. It's just, it feels like a substantial book in your hand. And, that's part of selling the book, is that it feels good. It's good to hold, especially because you have digital options. Like, this feels like a book worth owning in book form. And this is a huge event. Marvel knows how to make these events feel really epic. A big part of that is probably like these white pages that set everything up, very kind of theatrical for a book. We start off with the end. I don't know if this is a flash forward or what, but we start with the Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange, and not sure who this guy is exactly. I mean, actually, something very helpful that Marvel does for all these events is they let me find it. They actually have a cast list over here. So everybody in this book on this sheet with all their alliances. So we have the Marvel 616 universe, Ultimate Universe down here, all the team names and all that, telling us where everybody stands. So I guess that's actually Molecule Man we have. So yeah, Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom, and Molecule Man. Basically at the end of the world, at the end of the universe. And again, hard to say whether this is a flash forward, whether this is happening before the rest of the story. Just kind of hard to say. We then start off in the Ultimate Universe, Earth 1610. Am I getting that right? Yes, Earth 1610, as the incursion event is beginning to happen. And the Ultimate Universe is going in guns blazing, essentially. Yeah, that came out of nowhere. So yeah, the Ultimate Universe is going in guns blazing. S.H.I.E.L.D. is sending in everything they got. The Maker, who is Ultimate Universe, Reed Richards, is kind of building his ultimate weapons to send to the other Earth. Meanwhile, on Earth 616, which is the main Marvel universe, they have to deal with the onslaught from the Ultimate Universe. And while the heroes hold all the gunships at bay, the Fantastic Four and Black Panther kind of planned an evacuation for scientists, heroes, important people, so they can survive the catastrophe going on around here. And yeah, so a lot of this issue is kind of a fight taking place on both of these worlds, with each side lobbing different weapons against the other, each side trying to survive. It seems that Earth 616 is on the more defensive side, as the Ultimate Universe is sending entire ships through the crack in space. But they also throw their own offense as Colossus does a fastball special with the Hulk, throwing the Hulk and She-Hulk into the Ultimate Universe to cause destruction of their own. So yeah, a lot of fighting in this book, a lot of chaos as the Fantastic Four of the main universe tries to evacuate as many people they can or save as many people they can from all this warfare going on. Cyclops joins up with the Phoenix Force in order to, this is Hail Mary at this point. This is the last stand on everybody's side. Everybody, go big or go home, essentially. And during all the fighting, shit goes down, ships get shot down, things don't go entirely as planned, and yeah, it is basically the end of this book. The final page of this story is a tombstone for the Marvel Universe, 1961 to 2015, and for the Ultimate Universe, 2000 to 2015. So for a first issue of a huge event, it does a great job of setting up everything and making you care. We start off huge fight scene between two planets, everybody throwing things everywhere. We get Hulks flying into one dimension, gunships flying into another dimension. Ultimate Reed Richards is planning things with the Cabal, with another kind of evil force, including Thanos, in order to build these super advanced scientific gunships to send to the Marvel Universe. Meanwhile, the Marvel Universe is evacuating, so they're doing all their own things. Everything's happening. It's so busy and so chaotic but it's still, you can follow everything as you read it. Nothing feels out of place. Nothing feels like they're just being hastily introduced in order to do something. Everything feels properly set up. And the stakes are huge. I mean, the stakes are huge right off the bat, and it's kind of cheating when the stakes are it's a world-ending event. But at the same time, it doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel like, we need a world-ending event, so this is just going to be the end of the world. This actually feels like when this happens, the universe will die. And if you judge the last page of this book, then the universe has died. Like, this is the end, or at least the end of everything we've known so far. With people giving up hope. It's epic. This book, like, I try not to use the word epic a lot too often because then it loses its meaning, but this book is actually epic. It is a war, it is chaos, it is fire, it is things just doing their best to survive, not just to win, but just to survive this huge power out of their control. Like, this could have been the climax of the book, but it is only the first issue, and I'm really excited to see where this is going to go from here on out. So yeah, Secret Wars, way, way better crossover event than Convergence has shaped up to be. And yeah, that is it for this week's comic reviews. If you haven't checked out my review of the Convergence books, that is in part 1 to this video. There are some good ones. And yeah, I'm also going to be reviewing Batman Earth 1 Volume 2 this week, so if you're interested, keep an eye out for that. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want more of these, please subscribe. Any questions, comments, anything whatsoever, I would care if it has to, it might have not anything to do with this video. If you feel like saying it, write it in the comments below, and thank you for watching.